Awesome. Okay, so let's jump into Solve It. And here we see, so this is a different screen, but there's some things that we can identify that are the same. Let me make sure my code is reset here. And we see code over here in the upper right. We see the description on the left, and then we see our test cases at the bottom. Then we can play all test cases or submit. So here I'm hoping that we can figure out, number one, what is the goal of this programming challenge? And then we'll dive in a little bit deeper to see what are the inputs, and we'll take a look at the program a little bit. So let's, Brittany, you and I pause the video here. And anybody watching the video, you can pause your video here also and just read through all of these things. And there's a lot. But we want to do a complete read through once before we start targeting different areas. That may make sense, Brittany? Any thoughts before we pause the video?
Yeah, no, I think an initial read through for understanding is perfect. And it actually, the very first time that I read this, it took a little longer than I thought it would to digest everything. So, you know, if anything, I'd just say take the time you need to like just really understand the setup.
Cool. Let me pause the video. All right, so I read through this again, and I remember the first time it took me quite a while. So I would say if 10-15 minutes does not sound like a long time at all for this read through to me. Does that seem, and like even 15 to 30 minutes trying to process all of that, does that seem reasonable to you, Brittany?
Yeah, I was personally probably more on the 15 to 30 minutes side of the
Yeah.
balance there. Just trying to understand the different inputs and things like that.
So let's start overall. If I had a friend of mine come in and take a look at what I was doing and say, um, what are you programming here? What's the goal? What do you think it says here in whatever coding game language, what the goal is, but what did you read it as, Brittany?
Yeah. So for me, we have this Mars lander spaceship that's kind of drawn in that picture there with the X and the Y axis. And that spaceship, it's basically hovering above the surface of Mars at some distance, right? And our goal is really to land that spaceship on the unique area of flat ground that exists and on the surface of Mars. So we don't want to crash land, right? We want to land safely. Um, and so we get to, I guess, kind of program what that will look like. And so, kind of based on my read, I see kind of how you introduce the different episodes. There's some more sophisticated things that we'll do in future episodes, but for now, we're really just looking at taking the Mars lander from where it exists above the surface and landing it safely directly below where we are on that flat surface. Does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. And, I like how you put that, the goal is to land safely. And you had mentioned earlier that, there's a lot of different inputs and you actually have two different outputs that you can put in there also. But those are only useful in as much as they help you land safely, right? So we can look at whatever inputs we want. We can ignore whatever inputs we want as long as, right, we got to keep that top line goal, land safely. That's the only reason we're in this. Well, episode 1, right? That's the only thing we need to do with episode 1. And I they used to make fun of me a little bit at work because I would say I'm on a need to care basis, right? If the inputs coming across are not going to help me land that ship safely, I don't need to care about them. So I just put them aside in my mind. So getting that goal, and it took us, what, 15, 30 minutes to figure that out, right? To go through this whole thing and just kind of process that top line goal. And that's reasonable, right? We should give ourselves the space and the grace and all those things to get to that level.
Yep. Absolutely. I like that need to care too. I might have to use that.